Alright guys, so some really important notes today. You're going to do this a lot for the rest of the year, probably the most important topic. We're going to look at a table and write its equation. We did the opposite of it last week. I showed you guys how to fill out a table. You just had to plug in all these inputs into the equation. Just to review with that, why don't I do one of them for you guys and you guys can fill out the rest. So the equation that we're looking at is this guy right here. We're going to use that to fill out the rest of these. So I want you to go down and write -2 parentheses plus 2. And when I have you do it on your own, do all that first. And then I'm just going to plug in one of these. So this top one is -1. I'm going to get 2, or -2 times -1, which is 2 plus 2, which is 4. All right, so would you guys please pause the video, fill out the rest of this table for me to practice that. All right, so hopefully you guys had a chance to try it. I'm going to plug in 0, 1, and 2. And I'm going to get 0 plus 2 is 2. -2 plus 2 is 0. -4 plus 2 is -2. All right, so today I'm going to give you the table. Instead, I'm going to give you this. And you need to give me the equation. You need to give me this. Okay? So that's what we're going to do today. An example of this is if you look down here after I'm done erasing this here. It's not erasing. There we go. So down here, here's a question just like it that I ripped off the state test from a couple years ago. They want us to write a function rule. They also say the word equation, but that is just one of these y equals mx plus b's. And we already know how to do part of it. One part of it that we know how to do is how to find slope, right? And that's one of the things that we need. We need slope, which is just rise over run. But what's the other part that we need for a line or for an equation that we don't know how to do yet? That is the y-intercept. Right? So looking up at this table, that's what I'm going to have us do next, is look back up at this table. I'm going to have us find how I got -2 for the slope and 2 for the y-intercept. Well, the slope is pretty easy. Like, we did this a couple weeks ago where I said, what is this side changing by? What is it changing by? -2. And what is this side changing by? 1. So then my slope is just -2 over 1. But what I haven't taught you guys how to do yet is to find the y-intercept from looking at that table. So what we're going to do on the next page is we're going to graph this. We're going to graph this table. And we're going to see if we can figure out how to find the y-intercept pretty easily. So let's do that on the next page. I'm going to go and graph -1, 4, 0, 2. 1, 0, and 2, -2. There's my line. What we don't know how to find yet is the y-intercept. Now that being said, can we look at this graph and find the y-intercept? That should be pretty easy, right? So I'm going to try to draw a nice line. Not too bad. And looking at it, what is it? Obviously, it's 0, 2. Right? So down here, I say looking at the graph, what is the y-intercept? It's 0, 2. Was that point in our table? So let's look back at our table. Was 0, 2 a point in our table? Obviously it was. Is there going to be an easy way to always see that that's the y-intercept? What tells me that that's the y-intercept just by looking at it? Well, it's every single one or every single point that starts with 0. So in order to do this, we really need to understand what the y-intercept is. Remember, a y-intercept is where it crosses the y-axis. And if you look at the y-axis, every single one of those coordinates, like pretend that I crossed right here, what would that coordinate be? 0, -3, or it crossed all the way down here. That would be 0, -8. Every single one of these 0, comma 4. Starts off with 0. So if you're looking at a table, as soon as you find 0, you found your y-intercept. So this being said, we can find the y-intercept by finding the point 0, comma, and it's going to be something different for every single one. Like that one up there was 2. And if you look at the equation for it, it says 2, because it's 2, 0, comma 2, which is why I've been stressing you to say 0, comma, whatever it is in each one of ours for the past like 2 weeks. So that being said, let's take a look at this one right here. What's the 0, comma for this one? Because that's the y-intercept. It's 0, comma 4. And honestly, let's do the equation in letters too, just to remind us. It's y is mx plus b. So I found that. Now I just need the slope, which we knew how to do before we came in here. It's finding the rise, which rhymes with rise and y's, which is 3 over 1. So my slope is 3 over 1, or 3. So I know I can plug in 3 and 4. So my final equation is y is 3x plus 4. And that's really it for today. So let's try that, I think, one more time. Yep, let's try that one more time here. So I want the equation just in letters. I want the y-intercept because that's super easy to find. That's even easier to find than the slope. 0, comma 20. And the slope. If I look at this side, it looks like it's changing by 10. This side looks like it's changing by 2. So it's 10 over 2, which, can you do anything to 10 over 2? You can reduce it to 5 over 1 or just 5. So now I know I can plug in 5 and 20 to get my final answer of y is equal to 5x plus 20. Okay? So would you please try one, pause the video, and then start it up to see if you got it right or not. All right, so just in letters again, it is y equals mx plus b. If I want to find the easier, the 2, which one's easier? Hopefully you guys think the y-intercept is easier. It's 0, comma 10. And then the slope, how much are the rise or the y's changing by? 5 over 1. So it's 5 over 1, or just 5 and 10 to get y equals 5x plus 10. All right, so that's really all we're going to be doing today, and honestly all of tomorrow. But I'm just going to try to make it a little bit difficult, or a little bit more difficult each time I give you an example, because they are going to make you do more difficult ones. So let's take a look at this guy right here. Example 3. What equation represents the relationship between x and y? All right, so just like we've been doing, again, they even have y equals mx plus b's for us. How is this one different, though? Hopefully you guys are able to realize that it doesn't have a 0, comma something on here. It's 2, 4, 6, 8, and 10, not 0. So why don't we find the slope, and maybe that'll help us with what we need to do here. Which one is rise again? Which one rhymes with rise? The y's. So that's up by 2. The x's are also up by 2, which just gives me 1. How many down there have 1 for a slope? What's the slope on A? Not 1, it's 2, and then 4, and then 1, and then 2. So it's got to be C, right? And that's what I say down here. What's missing that all the other tables had? The 0, comma, whatever. Whenever you see something like this, what we need to do is we're going to continue our pattern until you find 0 for x. And what I mean by continue my pattern, I bet you if I put 12 right here, all of you could get what comes next. 18, isn't it? And then even 14. I bet you guys could figure out. It's 20. But I don't want that. I want back. I want 0. So let's go back to 0. And if I go back to 0, what's across from 0? Well, because I'm changing by 2 each time, it's going to be 6, which is what they got. 6. Right? So that's one way that they can make it more difficult. After that, our y-intercept is 0, 6. The slope of the table is 2 over 2, or 1. So the equation was choice C. Another way that they could, or that they could make this more difficult, is if they give you letters other than x and y. Now it's super easy if it's multiple choice, But it's a little bit tougher when you have to do like a show your work or extended response question. They usually do this when we're talking about a real world problem, like the next one is going to be. My tip to you when you have something like that is cross off the other letters and replace them with X and Y. So if we look at the next page, they're talking about this dude Tony and his books. All right, so they're not going to use X and Y because they used T for months, I'm assuming for time, and N for number of books, which makes a little bit more sense. Whenever this is the case, I want you to put a big ol' X, be obnoxious, and a big ol' Y, be obnoxious. And then do what we've been doing. This should be super easy. What's the easy point on here? Hopefully you saw 0, 8. So that being said, my y-intercept is 8. It's going to say something plus 8. That should narrow it down already to D. It's the only one that has a y-intercept of 8. But let's figure out the rest of it. Let me show you how to find everything else. So our slope, what is this side changing by? And then this side is changing by. So my slope is 3 over 1 x, and that's all equal to y. Now, after you're done with that, just like before, how we would write on top of the letters, I want you to write right back on top of y. And which one did y replace up here? N. And which one did x replace up here? T. So hopefully you can see how I got N, 3, T, and 8 to pick D. And I think that's all I really say down here. So in this problem, T is equal to X and N is equal to Y. So our equation is N is 3T plus 8. And that's choice D. All right. Let's do another one like that. Sometimes they're only going to give you one that's weird. Like here, they give us X, so you don't need to replace that one. But they did replace Y with this weird thing. It's actually something you're going to use a lot of next year. But anyways, let's do what we've been doing. I need to make a Y equals mx plus b. Did they give you the y-intercept easily here? Nope, they didn't, unfortunately. But we can easily find the slope. What is this side changing by each time? From 15 to 12 to 9. That's 3. And what is this side changing by? 3. So that being said, my slope is 3 over 3 or just 1. So I know I can put a 1 right there. Now, all I need to do is find 0. Well, what happens if I go back 3? I get to negative 12 and then negative 15. Is that ever going to give me to 0? But if I go forward, I get 0. Right? Because 3 more than negative 3. So let's go 3 more than negative 9 and get negative 6. There's my B. So my final answer is y is 1x or just x plus negative 6 or just minus 6. And that's really it. On the next page, I think I have us trying 2 of them. So would you please try those 2? Pause the video and then unpause it to check yourself. All right, so for number 3, the equation all in letters is y is mx plus b. That should be like burned in your head by now. Does this one give me an easy y-intercept? It does. It is 0, 100. So I know I can plug in 100 right there. What is my slope? Well, this side's changing by 20, and this side's changing by 1. Which one has to go on top? Obviously the y's, which reminds me, I forgot to do something that I told you guys to do. Be obnoxious and put a big old x and y. So that being said, now what can I put on top of the x? Like, what should I be putting there? And why don't I put the 20 over 1 and the 100? Why don't I put on top of the x an m? And on top of the y, a g. So my final answer should be, with everything plugged in, g is 20m plus 100. That's a perfect equation. That's basically as hard as it's going to get for us tonight. All right, number 4, maybe a little bit tougher. I need to not forget to do this time. And do they give us a y-intercept? Nope. So I need to find my slope first. I'm going to do that and get how much each time if I'm going from 11 to 18. 7. And how much each time over here? 3. So my slope, is it 3 over 7 or 7 over 3? 7 over 3. Let's go back until I find 0. And if I go back 7 from 11, I end up getting 4. Okay, so my final answer. Oh, and I forgot to plug back in. I don't need to plug in for x, but I do need to plug in this little h parentheses x for y. So h parentheses x equals 7 over 3 x plus 4. Okay? The equation of a line in slope-intercept form is y equals mx plus b. To find slope in a table, you need the rise over the run. Rise is change in y's, they rhyme. To find the y-intercept, you need to find the point 0, comma, whatever it is. If they don't give you the point 0, comma, whatever it is, you need to extend your pattern until you get a 0. If they give you letters other than x and y, replace them at first with x and y, and then replace again at the end with the originals. And that's it, guys. Thanks for watching.